Welcome top news today.
It is very appropriate that President Donald Trump virtually ignored climate change in his National Security Strategy NSS. Recent climate change has been unremarkable and clearly does not constitute a national security threat in comparison with concerns such as terrorism and inadequate border controls. What does constitute a threat, however, is a lack of affordable, reliable energy to power the nation and export into world markets. So, as a citizen of Canada, a nation dependent on a prosperous U.S. for our defense and much of our economy, I am very pleased to see that Trump emphasized energy security and, indeed, energy dominance in the national security strategy. To achieve these ends, and in particular to promote American prosperity and advance American influence, two of the four vital national interests identified in the National Security Strategy, the Trump administration asserts our nation must take advantage of our wealth in domestic resources. And one of the most important of its domestic resources, one America is no longer taking full advantage of, are its vast coal reserves, the largest of any nation on Earth. Testifying on November 28 at the Environmental Protection Agency's EPA public hearing on the withdrawal of the Clean Power Plan in Charleston, West Virginia, Robert E. Murray, president and CEO of Murray Energy Corp., summarized the bleak state of affairs. Prior to the election of President Obama, 52% of America's electricity was generated from coal, and this rate was much higher in the Midwest. That percentage of coal generation declined under the Obama administration to 30%. Under the Obama administration, and its so-called Clean Power Plan, over 400 coal-fired generating plants totaling over 100,000 megawatts of capacity were closed with no proven environmental benefit whatsoever. Former President Barack Obama's dedication to the climate scare contributed significantly to coal's decline. Besides the impact of the Clean Power Plan, a rule that will hopefully soon be withdrawn, coal has been hammered as a result of a 2015 EPA rule that limits carbon dioxide (CO2) emissions on new coal-fired power stations. The result is that the United States can no longer build modern, clean and efficient coal plants to replace older stations as is happening in Europe, China and India. Here's why the 2015 EPA rule, entitled Standards of Performance for Greenhouse Gas Emissions from New, Modified, and Reconstructed Stationary Sources Electric Generating Units, limits carbon dioxide emissions on new coal-fired stations to 1,400 pounds per megawatt-hour of electricity generated. When releasing the new standard, the EPA asserted that it is the performance achievable by a supercritical pulverized coal unit capturing about 20% of its carbon pollution. This is irrational. Carbon dioxide is no more pollution than is water vapor, the major greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. By calling the gas carbon, the Obama EPA encouraged the public to think of it as something dirty, like graphite or soot, which really are carbon. Calling carbon dioxide by its proper name, carbon dioxide, would have helped people remember that it is an invisible, odorless gas essential to plant photosynthesis, clearly not the perspective Obama encouraged. Also, the technology of carbon dioxide capture on a full-scale power plant is still a technological fantasy. So, in reality, the EPA was actually banning even the most modern, very efficient, supercritical coal-fired stations because the carbon dioxide emissions are at least 20% above the EPA limit. Considering that the U.S. has 22.1% of the world's proven coal reserves, the greatest of any country, and enough to last for 381 years at current consumption rates, it is a tragedy that America can no longer build new, clean, coal-fired power stations to replace its aging fleet of coal plants. Clearly, the Trump administration needs to cancel this damaging rule as soon as possible. The climate scare has also impeded coal's development in the U.S. by restricting its exports. In particular, Asia would be a huge market for inexpensive American coal if sufficient U.S. export facilities were available. But, again, thanks largely to the climate scare contributing to the blocking of construction of coal export terminals, the U.S. exports only about as much coal as does Poland. To restore America's advantages in the world and build upon our country's great strengths, to quote from the NSS fact sheet, the Trump administration must obviously continue to promote coal. The U.S. is, after all, the Saudi Arabia of coal. And to effectively boost coal, the climate alarm must be thoroughly debunked. Tom Harris is Executive Director of the Ottawa, Canada-based International Climate Science Coalition. The views and opinions expressed in this commentary are those of the author and do not reflect the official position of the Daily Caller. Tags Coal Energy Policy.